Hello and welcome to Kavishala Conclave. This is Nilesh, and I have somebody really special with me today. Somebody, in fact, who doesn't need any introduction because he has been showered with so much love by the reader population in India. Somebody who has also been described as the rock star of Indian literature. Somebody none other than Mr. Amish Tripathi. Amish, welcome to the show here.
Thank you. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Nilesh. Pleasure being here.
Thank you. And it's a great honor sharing the stage with you and Bhavna ma'am. Bhavna ma'am, incidentally, happens to be his co-writer and definitely she is his elder sister. So there's definitely a bond deeper than a co-writer. I am sure we would be able to scratch the surface of that as we proceed further. But welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Nilesh. Pleasure.
Thank you, thank you. Before I have a lot of questions for Dharma. To be very frank with you, I read this book.
This book.
Yes, this book,
Shameless
and
plug.
absolutely. And you know what? Honestly, I maybe will start with this because again, you have teased the audience with the site of that book as well. And the first thing for me, to be very honest, as a writer and as a reader, more importantly as a reader and a seeker, was the cover of that book. The representation, that wheel over there. What does that represent to you? Why that? To both of you, rather.
But to begin with, the first compliment is to Gavin, who came up with this cover. Brilliant design. And kudos to, Gavin, the creator of this cover. For the rest, I hand over to Amish.
No, I mean, absolutely agree with what Didi said. Gavin has done, his name is there, and he's done a wonderful job on the cover, and it's symbolic in many ways because one of the key things that our ancestors always grappled with through through all of history, because it is a question that can be explored for not just one lifetime but many lifetimes. The answer to that apparently very simple question: what is dharma? Right? Because dharma is not simplistic. It's not a list of do's and don'ts. The Indian dharmic philosophies, they treat you like an adult, not like a child. Do this, otherwise you'll go to heaven or you'll go to hell. That's like it's like a parent, finger pointing at a child. Whereas dharma is much more mature. It treats you like an adult. Here are the options. Think about it. Do what you think is right, and then live with the consequences. And at the heart of all these philosophies is this lovely word, dharma. And dharma is a Sanskrit word, and it's one of those untranslatables. Uh, Often it is translated as religion erroneously. Dharma is actually beyond religion. The Sanskrit word for religion would be panth. Dharma is beyond it. It's Religions can sometimes hope to attain, and push you towards dharma, and that's probably the way to approach it. And the root of the word dharma is is a dhatu called dhru, that which holds together, that which binds, that which balances, right? And that's what dharma is. And dharma was represented through many ways in our ancient way. One of the ways it was represented was the wheel of dharma. It was also represented as a bull. Very often we forget that. There's a reason why the symbolism of a bull has been so important in all the dharmic religions. Hinduism is not the only dharmic religion. Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, Sikhism. Um and a wheel has also been used often. That's why it's one of the reasons why in Mahabharata you had the narrator being represented by a wheel, because that's the wheel of Dharma. And one can explore why it is so. Why has the wheel been used? One can understand bull, because a bull is strong, powerful, it has strength, and it is protective of its family. But it's also, a herbivore. It does not kill other animals, but it'll defend that which is its own. So bull is very symbolic in that sense as well. It's one of the most powerful beasts in the jungle, but does not hurt other animals. It'll only hurt you if you attack him or its family. Otherwise, it keeps to itself, right? A
Yes,
wheel is
absolutely.
also And that, in a way, what India is like also. India never sent armies abroad. But for most of our history, we defended ourselves. It's not that we were non-violent. Someone attacked us. I mean, if someone slapped us, we won't turn the other cheek. We box the guy, right? But we won't go outside searching for food. But coming back to the cover, sorry, I tend to meander a bit. The wheel, it is one of the greatest inventions of mankind, right? The wheel has been used at so many places, and sure, our control of fire, the creation of the wheel, so early man and the ability to have tools are among the greatest inventions. But the key thing about the wheel is this, that it is stable when it's stationary. Sorry, it's stable when it moves, right? When it's stationary, it can follow, and that's the key thing of dharma. That dharma is in action, and if you are in action, then actually it will remain stable and straight, right? Perhaps that's one of the symbology of the wheel as well, which attaches to dharma. It's also circular. One of the things our ancestors believed was that the most divine shape was uh, was a circle, because any geometric piece, when you kept adding sides to it, and then you had an infinite number of sides, it would become a circle. So it was symbolic of the divine. So very long-winded answer to show that actually there's some thought, symbology behind this, which sadly we are not taught about enough in our education system. Didi, if you want to add anything also to the wheel of dharma.
All I want to add is my two bit on the beautiful red dot in the middle. That actually, with apologies to Gavin, that isn't Gavin's contribution. That's a contribution of Aman and my brother Amish. The center, red, the dot at the center. Dharma is the central axis, the reed ki haddi. Karma, Amish talked about movement of the wheel, and movement, karma either takes you away from the center, or with effort, it makes you move towards the center. This beautiful red dot.
Nilesh, you're on. Okay.
Am I audible now?
Yeah.
I think I should be. And very subtly said, when I looked at the cover, it along with the word, it had that esoteric meaning to me as well. I mean, though it looked apparent to me, but I wanted to see because the red dot which you mentioned, right? It's that mool adhar which I basically envisioned, that wheel spinning on that mool adhar. And Amish, to your point, the one that you said, great analogy, when you talked about India never attacking and growing. And I could relate when you were talking about it, right? That India being, we call it as Dharma Kshetra, right? Evolved, we have always kept moving on, like the cycle of karma, like the cycle of the universe, like the cycle of expansion. We've always moved on. So yeah, great analogy on it. Absolutely awesome. But yeah, I think those were my thoughts as a fan and as a reader, definitely. But one thing also which intrigued me while I was reading through the book was the writing style, which was more of a conversation, and it is something that we don't see these days. What inspired you? What prompted you to write like that? Because it's a tough style, honestly speaking, when we start writing like that.
I've got to, comment on that. The genesis of this book actually lies in 2014-15. It was the result of a Rockets family conversation. All of us together, we were talking about actually idol worship and Murti Pujan, the significance of idol worship, and it just has a very inculcated connotation these days. But what is the philosophical basis of idol worship? We were sitting and discussing, this, and then from there the conversation went to karma and dharma. And my brother Amish, the one I mentioned earlier, the one who suggested the red dot. He said, why don't you guys write something, together? And so Amish and I said, well, sounds like a good idea. And what we can do is maybe explore karma and dharma using the stories from the epics and Amish's universe. Meluha. It was Meluha and Secrets of the Nagas and Vaiputras at the time. And so I said, okay, Amish, let me take a shot at it. And I initially wrote around 15 pages, 15, 20 pages, a basic compendium on, my ideas on envy, loyalty, sacrifice, gratitude, things like that. And I sent these 15, 20 pages to Amish. And he called me back. I'm 8 years older to him. So he was very careful. He was very loving, but also very gingerly, but also very honest. And he said, Didi, what you've really written is a dissertation for a postgraduate course in philosophy, in some, esoteric academia. No one's going to read this, it's extremely difficult to understand. And I said, oh my God, because I had worked so hard on it. And, in my conception, I had really dumbed it down. I had really, really made it simple. And here's my brother telling me this is for universities. So I said, okay, Amish, kya karu? So he said, let me work on it, send it to me. And then the Amish magic happened because, he worked on it and he created these characters. There's this family, there are two sets of couples, two older couples, Dharmaraj and Lopamutra Deshpande. And then their daughter, Gargi, and her husband, Nachiket and Gargi Sawant. He created these characters and he reached that entire thing that I had written into conversations and he brought it all alive. It was magical. After that, of course, there was to and fro. He sent it back to me. I fleshed out a little more. I sent it back to him. He fleshed out a little more. And then actually it went into cold storage. During COVID time, Amish called me up and said, Didi, let's finish that project. That was almost done. And here it is. So that's how those characters were created. It's the magic of Amish.
No, I'd love to take all credit for it, but there is actually a structure that comes down from our ancestors. You'll notice most of the Upanishads are actually structured as conversations, and it wasn't just something in the Indian way. Even the Platonic dialogues are actually as conversations. As compared to a non-fiction book. I mean, there is value to both sides, but what a conversation does is because you can put point, counterpoint, so therefore it just makes it a little easier to understand. Hence, even the names of the characters you'll find Dharmaraj, Natsuke, they comes from the Upanishads. Even the names Gargi, they're also it's a cue to where it's come from, and conversations just make it easier. So I don't think credit can be given to me. It comes from our ancestors, and most of the deep thought on the philosophies, like as in our family, everyone reads a lot. I know many people used to think I read a lot. I do read a lot, but if there's one person in my family who reads more than I do, it's my sister. So she reads a huge amount. And she doesn't just read. In our family, we try, and of course our roots are very Indian. We have read a lot of Indian stuff, but we try and bring in inputs from other ancient cultures as well, because it expands our mind, broadens our understanding. So therefore, in this book, you'll find these brought in wonderful references from ancient Greece, ancient Egypt, because there's something to be learned from all cultures. Sorry, Nilesh. Okay.
I think should be audible now. Yes, I was saying absolutely concur with you. I absolutely agree that the way maybe our cultures flowed, everything contributed towards one another, and then we have this intermingled mass of cultures across the globe, which are in a way coming together, maybe not in the form of spirituality the way they used to be intertwined maybe ages and eons back, but now it is more in a more tamasic manner in the form of businesses and in the form of finances. But yeah, we are all combined some way or the other, either from sattva or from tamas, but we are at the end of the day one, right? But Amish, one question for you at this juncture, and maybe I'll kind of dwell away from the philosophical, discussion for a moment here, just for a little bit breather for all of us mortal folks. But the question is that every writer has a story behind why they write, right? What was that catalyst for you? How did you enter into writing
For this book or initially?
initially?
Initially.
I know
Ah,
I'm taking you a long way back in history, but
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Because I'm old, as you can clearly make out. Uh,
No, no,
so
no, you look young. You look young like a.
yeah, yeah. With lines like that, you should be in politics.
No, no, no. No, I'm a part of the corporate world. So yeah, as a fan.
Okay, so no, my first book, Immortals of Meruha, I started writing that, I guess, maybe 15, 16 years ago, 2004, 2005. Took some nearly 4, 5 years, perhaps, to write the first book. And before that, I didn't absolutely no fiction, nothing ever. So I was completely a left-brained guy. I graduated in mathematics, did an MBA, worked in banking for 14 years. So as left-brained as they come, and had never shown any signs of being creative when I was young. And Didi will obviously back me up on that. My father and my elder brother did write poetry, but I Ashish, I, Didi, we never really wrote anything. Um, so and in even Immortals of Meruha began actually as a pure philosophy thesis, uh, and an answer to the question, what is evil? And then it was Didi and Ashish who had spoken to me that, do you think this can come across in a story? And let the philosophy be wrapped up in a story. And that's how it began. And how the story comes to me, I genuinely believe it's Lord Shiva's blessings, because I don't know how it comes. And even now, like I'm writing the fourth book of the Ramchandra series right now, and there are scenes which just open up in my mind. How they open up, I don't know. And I've just learned to just trust the instinct. Uh, and I truly love that world and that parallel world that I get to enter when I write. I love the process of writing. It's like it's almost spiritual, which is why I guess I try. Maybe that's why I've come out with so many books, and many of them quite long. Uh, in just 10 years, what nine? With Didi, this is the ninth book. My name on it, yeah.
So very interestingly, I have one question. In fact, I have two, but I'll first jump into my second question.
Okay.
You mentioned one piece over there that your journey being a spiritual one when you're writing, and it quite often happens that when we write, you get involved with the characters and you get involved with the subject quite deeply. Did you have any experience that you would like to share while writing one of your books or any of your favorite books? I'll add on two questions to that. What would be that favorite book and what would be that character? I know a lot of questions, but something which came in my
Yeah,
head
but I
right now.
mean, especially if you're writing fiction, you get so deeply involved with the characters. One doesn't just see them and hear their voice. As an author, one can also hear their thoughts, one can feel their emotions. And not everything that you see of the characters goes into the book, right? Because otherwise the book will become too long if you put everything in there. It'll become 1,500 to 2,000 pages. Yeah, which is a human rights violation, as I always joke. So you have to drop a lot of stuff. But so in some ways, I know more about those characters than I would know about people I meet in real life, right? So they are very, very real for me. Every experience that they have, like I feel very deeply. And if in Oath of the Vayuputras, for example, when Devi Sati, when she died, I was so disturbed I couldn't do any, and I wrote it, but I was so disturbed for I couldn't do anything for 2 days. And I remember when I'd finished that scene, I was in my study at home. This was in Mumbai, and I'd come back to the bedroom. My wife at that time, she's my ex-wife now, but my wife, we're still, of course, good friends. But at that time, I'd come and I'd just put my head on her lap, and I just said she's dead. That's it. And I'd started crying. And I was, in fact, right now I've just written, this morning of the death of a character who was actually just there for a bit in in Sita Warrior of Mithila, and I'm actually disturbed by that death. It was a very heroic death, but so one feels those characters, they really are a part of our being as authors. So which is why in some ways it's very special. In some ways it it can be traumatic as well, because you feel the emotions a lot more strongly. But it is, whether you call it positive or negative, it truly is a very special experience. Seeing and living with those characters. I don't know if I was able to explain what I feel. But
No, you were. You were. In fact, honestly speaking, that carries on to the writing as well. And maybe that's the reason why all of India and a lot of the part of the world is so enthralled about your writings, because that emotion carries through. And when we talk about this emotion, this unseen force that we are talking about right now, right? I think this is something that you have touched on your book as well, which is karma, right? A lot of us understand karma as just work, just action, but it is more deeper than that, right? If I got the gist correct. Would you want to expound on that? How would you want to? I know it's very difficult explaining karma. It's a tough, long subject, but yeah, it would be great if you could talk about it a bit.
yeah, no,
And
I mean, karma, which is just work, is just work. How do you make it karma? I think, Bhavna, I think you may want to speak on this, how it works with dharma. Yadi.
Actually, I was so looking forward to listening to another, rejigging of the answer from you, Amish. The thing with Amish Nilesh is that, and I know what I'm saying. I'm his elder sister. You ask him to expound on something for the nth time, and for the nth time, he will give you a fresh perspective. Even as he was speaking, I'm digressing a bit, but when he was speaking about those characters, that he creates, and I so identify with what he's saying, because these characters in this book, they become so alive, and both Amish and I feel so intensely about these characters. When Amish used to talk about, when he talked about the agony of Lord Ganesh, when he was creating his Lord Ganesh, when he talked about the death of Sati, the anguish of Kumbhakarna, that we have captured, substantially in this book, Dharma. He used to feel so intensely, and be so moved that it was moving. You got moved by what he's experiencing. It was so beautiful. Having said that, I'll just come back and touch upon karma. Karma is, if karma is activity, then the thing is, what is activity? Is just doing activity, is only this activity, or is this activity, or are my words also activity? Are my emotions activity? Are my thoughts activity? What about my breath when I'm breathing, when I'm sleeping? Am I active when I'm sleeping? Yes. Karma is all kinds. When you're breathing badly, you're moving away from dharma. When you're breathing well, you're moving towards dharma. When you are being pulled in all kinds of directions by your thoughts, and when you are experiencing an inner, noise in your head, you're moving away from dharma, because that's karma. And when you exercise control over your thoughts, when you learn to become the master or the mistress of your thoughts, you're moving towards the center. Emotions, they're a big playground. Emotions are a huge playground to move from fear to security, to move from greed to contentment, to move from egoic power pursuits to love, to intuition. All this is karma. It's which is what makes it so difficult, because if everything is karma, then where do you start and where do you end, and how many lifetimes is it going to take for you to get to that damned center?
No,
But
absolutely.
if I can just add one thing, one of the things that was there in our ancient education system, it's one of the things that Didi and I had discussed in our gurukuls, in our pathshalas, which were there till actually the 17th, 18th century. There's this beautiful book, a lovely book called Beautiful Tree by Dharampalji, a Gandhian, who had written of what our education system was like. Among the foundations that used to be taught was, of course, mathematics was a critical subject. Everyone had to learn it. Not like the nonsense of today where maths can be an elective subject. I don't understand that. Everyone has to learn maths. Uh, the second thing that everyone had to learn was philosophies. Philosophies was not something that was relegated to the humanities stream. It was something which everyone had to learn. Because what is philosophy at its core? It's the art of learning how to live. Excuse me. The art of learning how to live, how to make your choices, how to make decisions in life. And this was something that was taught through everyone in our ancient schools through the medium of stories, through the Ramayana, Mahabharata, Puranas, where you'd be taught how, what are the options in life, how should you, what what is viveka, how do you make the ability to distinguish between things. And actually that we realize that is not there in the modern education system. Modern education system just teaches you skills. It doesn't teach you how to lead a fulfilling life with those skills that you've learned. And if you don't know how to live your life and you've learned skills, it's like a little child being given a knife. The child will probably hurt itself, right? Uh, how do you learn those philosophies on how you should make your decisions, how you should navigate the ups and downs of life? All of us will have problems in life. No one has an easy life. Those are the discussions we hope to trigger through, and this will not just be one book, it'll be a series of books to explain what used to be done, I guess, in our pathshalas and gurukuls earlier, discussing philosophies.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. And in fact, you talked about this educational system, and it triggered a thought in me. You mentioned in the book about having your heart talk to you. But unfortunately, in this day and age, if you look at it, for most of us, the heart unfortunately does not do most of the talking. Since childhood, it's trained to be subdued, right? Always it's your mind or somebody else's mind taking over you. How do you break that structure? How do you make people think through the heart or live through the heart again?
Didi, do you want to try this? Huh? Oh, okay. So I think one of the bizarre things that's happened in the modern Western way, and the Western way is so dominant across the rest of the world, pura havi ho gaya.
Hmm.
Is this uh, putting reason and
Yeah.
rationalism on a pedestal, right? Uh, and they've almost backward projected this onto Greek culture and Greco-Roman culture. But Greco-Roman culture wasn't about, and reason was important. So was emotions, right? It didn't put reason at a pedestal and said, forget your heart. And this was true of all ancient cultures, that you have to have a marriage between your heart and your mind, uh, between the Purush and Prakriti. Because if you're not uh, if you don't have balance between the two, then life will, you'll not know how to live your life well. Because if you listen only to your heart, you may jump from disaster to disaster. You'll be swinging from one extreme to the other. But if you don't listen to your heart at all, life doesn't appear worth living, right? How do you find a marriage between the mind and the heart? This was one of the things that was there in all ancient cultures, and these are things that are discussed in many of the philosophical discussions of ancient times, and we try and discuss it as well in our talks. Didi and I.
No, I did get a gist of that when I was reading through the book, and it definitely gave me a lot of insights as well. One more piece, which while you mentioned Purush and Prakriti, it brings me to another
Yeah,
question of mine.
I should just clarify that's the old Sanskrit term. So
Yes.
please don't translate Purush as male. That's
No, 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 no. I'm not. I'm not.
It's just a life force, and
Yes, yes,
Prakriti is matter. That's a way to translate it. Often we
absolutely.
translate from Hindi and not on the original Sanskrit terms. Just clarify.
Yes, no, no, I'm going to Sankhya over here. I'm talking about Purusha and Prakriti from the duality perspective.
Right.
And duality is, I'm talking duality from our day-to-day lives as common people who are working specifically in this COVID time, right? A lot of people are struggling with their livelihood, and eventually the moral compass sways towards, or the dharmic converse sways towards saving that livelihood. How does a normal person in this tough time ensure that he is aligned to his dharma?
Uh, uh, this is one of those testing phases in history, right?
Yes.
Uh, I wish one could say there are easy answers. Bhavnadi, I'd love it if you could also drop in. But my thoughts. Um, there is a value to grief as well. It's one of the things our ancestors used to say. In fact, Gautam Buddha had said that the first of his Four Noble Truths was that grief is the fundamental reality of the universe.
Hmm.
Now, we can either be weighed down by grief, or we can use grief as an opportunity to spiritually evolve. The choice is ours. Uh, and if I, Didi and I had written an article on this. If you think about it this way, just to give you a modern example, to kind of explain what we are saying, that you would think that the absence of grief and having all material comforts would lead to a well-rounded and happy person. But if you see, and I'm living in the West right now, if you see the modern Western youth, the modern Western elite youth, the most privileged generation in human history, no one has had the lack of actual real problems. That I'm not talking about third world countries, I'm talking about elite Western youth, that they lead a materially very comfortable life. They are privileged. Their per capita violence is the lowest it has ever been in human history. Per capita, I'm talking about in the West, per capita wealth is the highest it has ever been. And yet it's difficult to find a generation that is more angry than this present generation. And it doesn't make sense, right? If everything is comfortable for you, why are you angry? Right? Uh, so is it that grief and problems actually have a purpose in our life, that they make us tougher, they make us stronger? It's one of the things our ancestors said. Having said that, the choice is ours. Do we use grief to evolve? If you see in the Ramchandra series, it's one of the things we discuss in here, that uh, Lord Ram, Goddess Sita, Ravan, all three suffered grief. What was Ravan's reaction to that grief? The world hurt me, I will hurt the world even more. Whereas what was Lord Ram's reaction? The world hurt me, I will be even more noble. You know, uh, the choice is ours. How we react to it. So I will not lie and say that it is a comfortable situation and everything will be okay in a month. Who knows? There's a new strain right here, yeah, in London. You know, uh, Now, whether that has also come from a Chinese lab or a, I don't know. But okay, but no, jokes aside. But the point is that there is a new strain. When will this disease end? One doesn't know, and it is a very difficult situation for most people. People are there are real problems. Businesses are stuck in the. How do you handle this? Again, the choice is us. We are not in control of what the world does to us, but we are in control of how we react to what the world does to us. And I would suggest we hold up Lord Ram and Goddess Sita as an example. How to react when the world is, when fate has been unfair to you, when the world has been unfair to you, how should you react? Uh, and not like Ravan. Ravan was so capable. No doubt the world was unfair to him, but he made his own situation a lot worse with his anger. That's perhaps a thought. Didi, you know?
No doubt these are challenging times. COVID has wreaked havoc economically, certainly, the world over. Businesses have been rent asunder, lives have been destroyed. Businesses of decades have been brought to their heels. I mean, think about the food industry, restaurants, hotels, airlines,
How many jobs?
so many others really suffering. Yeah. Added to which, I mean, this is COVID, but these times are also challenging post the creation of social media. Um, these are huge challenges because Douglas Murray, the British author, has said that this communication revolution of social media, how we are conversing right now, this communication revolution will probably, in all probability, reduced the creation of the printing press to a footnote in human history. I mean, the creation of the printing press to a footnote in human history, because what this has done is that you are a human being is simultaneously talking to himself and talking to the world at the same time. So social media has taken away the luxury of making a mistake, of throwing trial balloons of ideas, of just being human. So and human nature hasn't caught up with this huge development in technology. So it is extremely difficult to navigate this period without self-understanding and understanding other human beings. Do I really see you? My eyes see you, but am I really able to see things the way you see? Can I see from your eyes? Because if I am able to really, really see you and see the way you see the world, then I will also be able to understand whether I should involve you in my life or manage you in my life. This will only happen if I understand you, and understanding you is not going to be possible till I first understand myself. It all begins here. So human nature, in terms of human understanding, in fact self-realization, has to catch up with the external reality of the times that we live in. It's become extremely important.
Oh, absolutely well said. And, it kind of pops up another question in me in this regard that while we are talking about our current times, the situation, the age of instant gratification that we are talking about, there seems to be a moment where writing and reading the way we have seen it grow, as children, has taken a backstage stage. What do you feel is the future of the book industry, of writing in general in India and across the world? And what do you think is the importance of platforms like Kavishala, in this entire industry now as we proceed in 2021?
The book industry. Didi, should I take this? Yeah. The book industry, seriously, from a paraphrasing from A Tale of Two Cities, simultaneously, it's the best of times and the worst of times. Uh, it is true across the world that many of the top authors and the classics, the book sales have actually gone up. Okay, because people are stuck at home. You can only watch so much of Netflix and Amazon Prime. You want to do something different. So reading has picked up, and you can buy on. And most people, even people who would stay away from from the online world, have actually dipped their toes into it because they've had no choice in the last 10, 11 months. And our mother, Bhavna Di, and my mother, who would never, she wouldn't even touch Bhavna Di herself, you know. She wouldn't get on social media, would refuse to buy anything on the phone because the assumption was that moment you do that, your entire account will get cleaned out, you know. But my mother has started buying things online, and now she's, yeah, they're so convenient. Why didn't I do it before? Now, what this has done is moved what the social change, the consumer behavior change that would have happened over 10 years or 15 years has all got telescoped into 6 months. And the internet, we like to think of it as a democratizing tool. It's not turning out to be a democratizing tool. It's actually turning out to be a concentration tool. Uh, Remember, on your phone, you can't scroll more than 2 3 screens, right? How many books will you see? You'll only see the books that are displayed on the top screen, which is usually what, either the classics or the top 3 4 authors. That's it, right? It's not like a bookstore where you spend 2 3 hours, as you know, as all of us are voracious readers, so you discover things. um, so what this has done is book sales has got concentrated uh, at the among the top authors, and many of the average hits are the average author, the guys who would sell say 20,000, 30,000, 50,000 copies, they are getting hit. Okay, this is not good for the industry long run. Okay, because a top author could get hit by a bus. Okay, and then what happens? Those books, there'll be no new books coming out, right? You never like a concentration risk. What is the solution? I don't know, because the internet almost naturally, like on Netflix, Amazon, which shows do you see? Just the ones that you've heard about. So top 10, 15, which get almost all the viewership, right? New models have to emerge, which is where what Kavishala is doing is very interesting, because you guys are actually speaking of the reading habit, the listening habit, and trying to build a different culture on the online space. Because if we are dependent only on the store app, you will never go beyond the third screen. Do you ever go beyond the third screen? No matter what product you're buying, you don't. Even the third screen is too much. You normally just buy on the first screen, right? It's true for books, it's true for movies, it's true for everything, right? So new models have to emerge. Kavishala is, in a sense, an interesting model which is looking at this. uh, it will play out over the next few years. As of now, it appears there's a concentration risk. It is not good for the industry. It's not even in the interest of the top authors, because the industry also has to be healthy, right? Uh, so more strength to you guys and to others like you guys to introduce and more readers to more writers, because the physical stores are getting hit. That's a real downside of the present pandemic.
No, absolutely. I think you gave a very clear perspective of how things are going to pan out at this juncture. Which brings me to another thing, very intriguing line that I had read in your book, which Dharma in particular, and again I'm going back to it because I am fairly enchanted by it, and I think it's a must read for anybody who is on that path or trying to seek that path of self-seeking and spirituality, for a lack of a better word. The question that I have here is that you have mentioned over there that what is in the interest of the bee, beehive is in the interest of the bee, right? the question which I have over here is, if the bee basically keeps on doing what the beehive, what has been given to it, or what has been told to it by the beehive, then does it um, s- basically stop its spiritual progression by doing things that it does not relate to? Does it break its dharma?
Deep, do you wanna?
Um, what has been said is that in the book is what is in the interest of the beehive is always in the interest
But
of
that's not
the bee, and it is
always.
always so in the direction. Often it is so in the other direction also, but not always so in the other direction. Now the thing over here, the a crucial question over here, Nilesh, is which is my beehive? uh, which beehive do I belong to? Now, of course, ultimately, in the ultimate scheme of things, there's only one beehive. And what is that one beehive? Life, So we are all in the same beehive, from the banyan tree to the wheat, to the sun, to the moon, to the stars, Saturn, insects, trees, you and I, animals, everyone. We're one beehive. But that understanding it is safe to say very, very far away. It's certainly not happening in our current lifetime. So then how do I determine which beehive am I the bee of? Instinctively, I would say the beehive, the identification with which brings you in harmony, quietens you, and makes you positive. The one that reduces your inner noise. If you are identifying with a beehive and you find you're always angry, you're fearful, uh, your emotions are all a tumble, you're unable to sleep, you're unable to function, adequately, then you question yourself, am I identifying myself with the wrong beehive? In my early youth, identified myself with the beehive of feminism. you know what is my central identity? I'm a woman. I was a raving feminist as a teenager, but as Amish will back me up with, I was a very angry young woman. you know there was no stillness in me. Obviously, I was identifying myself with the wrong beehive. That's the central question. Which beehive do you belong to? The beehive that, the central beehive I came to identify myself with, which brought me, centered me completely, was marriage, the bee in the beehive of, the marital bond, then family. That's the beehive that, makes me feel strong, makes me feel positive, brings me in harmony, keeps me calm. The beehive of India, it gives me a lot of joy. It keeps me centered, keeps me happy, keeps me positive. So that is the beehive I belong to. And if the beehives that I belong to, were, my marriage, then my family, my country, I don't have identification problems, and then I'm good to go. What's good for my beehive is good for me.
Another question coming in. So when we have these number of people in the beehive, right, there will always be a conflict of opinions. And as long as there would be conflict of opinions, there would be people who would be seeing you as either good or evil. Um, but as you said, right, end of the day, it's one beehive, it's one universal truth that we are talking about. Is there good or evil in your eyes?
Amish, let me take that.
Okay,
But
sure.
I would like to listen to what you have to say also. So you said that yes, whatever beehive we identify with, of course there are conflicting opinions, there are opposite points of view. which is fine, which is the way things should be, in a marriage, in a family, in a country. The thing is, we have to ask ourselves, can we debate? Can we, engage in communication, conversations from respect? I may not agree with you, but can I bring respect onto the plate of my interaction with you? Now, the thing is that absence of respect doesn't necessarily translate to disrespect. There's a huge, you may withdraw respect and yet not dip your toe into disrespect, because whatever may be, the situation, civility should not be discarded. So, if you do not discard civility, and if you're able to, hold on to respect, even to an opposing point of view, I don't think conflicting ideas are a problem. The more the merry.
Yeah.
The more the growth, the more the merry, and the more the merry, the more the growth.
No, completely. And if I can add to that, this is something our father had told us, that if two people have the exact same viewpoints on everything, then one of them is not required actually. It is almost impossible for any two people to have the exact same viewpoints on all issues. The very fact that we are different individuals, that we have different life experiences, means that the way we view the world will be different, and which is the way it should be, right? So that's the first point. The second point then is how we should debate, right? Uh, and there is this wonderful book I have spoken of very often, called a book called Bada by Radha Vallabh Tripathi ji. He's no relation of ours, so there's no nepotism here. Uh, so he's written this book on Indian debating traditions, okay, and Indian debating styles, and the way we came to our point of view. And there's a lovely line which is there in the Natya Shastra: Satyam Bruat Priyam Bruat Na Bruat Satyam Apriyam. That speak the truth, but speak it with love. And if you cannot speak it with love, then don't speak it. It doesn't say speak the untruth. I've said that very often. It doesn't say speak the untruth. You must speak the truth, but speak it with love. Then you will learn something from the other person as well. The other person will learn something from you too, and society will benefit from that. That's the second point. The third point, so one of the things that we mention in the book, that how you treat others is not a reflection, often is not a reflection of how the other person behaves. It's a reflection of you, right, as a character. And you'll find that those who have a sense of centeredness, who are content with themselves, will treat others with respect, even if the other person does not deserve respect. An example of that is Lord Ganesh in the Shiva trilogy, who we speak of out here, right? Uh, in the Shiva trilogy, if you see Lord Ganesh's character, the amount he suffered, does he have the very fair right to be angry with the world? Yes, he does. Perhaps as much of a right to be angry with the world as Ravan had, because he suffered a lot. But Ravan was so angry, treating even those who treated him with respect, he would treat them with disrespect, like with Kumbhakarna, right? Whereas Lord Ganesh, even that woman who he saved in Immortals of Meruha, right, and who called him a monster because he looked different, he treated her with respect as well. Uh, and that doesn't say anything about that woman. Of course, she didn't deserve respect. It says something about how centered and solid Lord Ganesh was as a character. So when you treat others with respect, it actually says something about you. That doesn't mean become a doormat. Lord Ganesh was never a doormat. When he needed to fight back, he would fight back, right? But but you will still have manners and civility in how you behave, and that's our Indian traditions. We've forgotten some of those traditions in our modern debates, especially in our modern TV channels, our op-eds, the way they talk. We've imbibed many of these unfortunate. We've lost the beauty of humor. You can say the same thing with humor, rather than insulting. You know?
No, absolutely, aptly said, Amish. And in fact, one thing which I would want to mention over here, in particular about the Immortals of Meruha, to be very frank with you, and again, this is not flattery, this is the way I see it over here. I regard that as a gateway book. Like there are a lot of books that we see, like there are a lot of people specifically right now do not have access, or we have lost our traditions across the world, not only in India. Those things have been maybe marked as pagan or tribal customs, or they have been looked down upon. But there is always an ounce of truth, and we have lost those customs, tradition, way of doing things, the science behind the entire the rituals. We have lost that. But what Meluha has done for a lot of people is that it has created that gateway to spirituality. It has become that gateway drug. It has triggered that curiosity, which I feel is absolutely important in this day and age, and it becomes a stepping stone for people to seek that wonder which lies beyond. So yeah, definitely, I think the entire world is indebted to you for that. But on that note, and I know we are a bit over the hour, but one question which I would want to ask you over here: what is the advice that you have for one upcoming authors, and maybe if we do have the time, what advice do you have for people who are in search of Swadhyay or in search of themselves? What advice do you have for them?
I'll handle the question on the authors. I think Didi should answer on those who are in search for themselves. On authors, I would just say, look, if your aim is wealth and fame, there are much easier routes than writing. You should write only to give voice to your soul. And if the book works, fantastic. If it doesn't work, no problem. But write with your heart. Write with the purity of your heart. That's the only the core suggestion I would make on writing. Once you've written the book, of course, then become pragmatic. Figure out how you market it. All those things are, of course, important, but only later. When you're writing, write with the purity of your heart. It should be the voice of your soul. That's the only suggestion I would give to writers. Didi, spiritual suggestions for those who are searching for themselves. One way could we start with this book, Dharma?
Yeah. Really, this is such a big question, and who am I to offer my two bit on this humongous question. All I will say is gather the courage, the himmat, to really uncover yourself, and have this within your own inner being, get to know yourself. All of us think we know ourselves. We do not know ourselves at all. If you have ever said to yourself or to somebody else, a friend, a family member, a colleague, a subordinate, your boss, anybody, person you're buying something from, if you've ever find yourself saying, oh my God, I don't know where that came from. I don't know why I did that. I don't know why I said that. I'm so sorry. That wasn't me. Examine that me, because that me is more me than the me you like to believe is me. Get to know that me. Be brutal with yourself, and पर्दा फाश करो अपने unconscious का. It's not an easy exercise because we cover ourselves with so many rationalisms and so many explanations, because we all like to feel good about ourselves. And in uncovering yourself brutally and getting to know that bit in you which is malignant, that bit in you which is unkind, that bit in you which is angry, that bit in you which is fearful, and engage with it, understand it, and then try and overcome it. That's Swadhyay. That's the journey of life in a way which was really in a sense beautifully meaningful. You will start once you overcome that initial bump, of inner brutality. You will find that you will enjoy the ride.
I guess that's a wonderful place to end that.
Yes,
So,
absolutely. No, thank you for your time today. I think it was a pleasure talking to you, and wish you the very best for the book, for the new book. And it was a pleasure reading it. Thank you so much.
thanks, Elish. You take care,
Thank
my
you.
friend. Pleasure.
Thank you.
Pleasure
Thank you so
talking.
much.
Thank you
Thank you.
so
Thank
much.
you.
Thank you so
Thank
much.
you.
Bye bye.